Hello everyone. This is Richard again from Revive My Retro. And on this video, I'm going to work on the GameCube. Basically, just open it up, clean it out, replace the capacitors, put a new LED in. I was going to work on the Nintendo 64 next, but I'm waiting for a used Nintendo 64 that I ordered online to come in before I do the teardown and work on that one. So I figured in between, while I'm waiting for that, I'll just work on the next one up, and that's the GameCube. So first things first, before I work on something, I usually just like to check it to make sure everything's working. I haven't used this GameCube in a while, so I'm going to put Resident Evil 3 in there. These games are good on the GameCube. Resident Evil. So let's go ahead and power that on. This could not be read. Now, I wonder with this, like if because this I've used this GameCube before, and I know it's working. It's old, but sometimes the old capacitors can actually cause this issue. Not that the laser's going bad, but the capacitors are gone bad. So it'll be interesting to see if I do replace the capacitors, if it helps with this problem. So otherwise, it would have to be some work done on the laser. So go ahead and let's just power it off and then power it back on. And you can kind of sometimes tell if it's the capacitors, because if you've powered it on, you leave it on for a little bit, and then try again, and then it suddenly starts working. You know that, oh, those capacitors are getting charged up, and finally they start working. There you go. Actually, that time it worked. I didn't do anything. All I did was power it back off and power it back on. So, usually that indicates, hey, the capacitors are going bad, and not actually the laser that's going bad. So let's do a recap on it, and then see if that behavior still shows up. Okay, I'm going to do this one on my floor because there's a lot more space. My desk is kind of small, so this will be easier for me. Just taking the casing apart. Not too bad taking this apart. I mean, the GameCube is really nice to work on. Got a little battery in here that needs replaced as well. I might as well take that out while I'm in here. Well, that battery is actually soldered in. So I like to put sockets in when I'm changing these, so I don't have to do this in the future to change the battery. You don't have to keep desoldering it and putting a new one in. So I'll put a socket in there. So a few screws that need to come out for this. I'm going to grab my Phillips type screwdriver and start working on those. I don't know if you can see this in my video. It is a little dusty inside. A little dirty. The board could definitely use a little clean. And then obviously we've got a heatsink here, which will probably need new thermal paste too. So, yep. Let me see if there's any I don't see any bulging on the capacitors or anything like that. So, however, the board does look a little aged. Definitely needs a good clean. But that doesn't mean the capacitors are healthy. So, gotta continue on here. Let's get down to dismantling the rest of this. Thinking there's going to be some more screws. Probably have to remove this heatsink, I'm thinking, to get the rest of it out. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, the good thing is on this one I've already replaced the thermal pads. So it looks like I've already dismantled it and got to that part, so I know I didn't replace the capacitors on this. So that's good. So at least I don't have to worry about the thermal paste. I can see it's got my MX Arctic thermal pads in there. Okay. But still needs a good clean. So I should do that. So right now I'm just disassembling the laser assembly, disk drive, because I bet you there are capacitors under here, and I think if those ones are going bad, then that could definitely be what's causing my games to not read when the console first turns on, and then let it warm up for a minute and it starts reading games. That's a sure sign that capacitor is going bad, and it's probably in the disk drive. So I'm going to get this board off, flip it over, and then see what's on there. And as I suspected, there are numerous capacitors on this board. None that seem to have leaked, but you know, if any one of these is going bad, then that could definitely cause games to sometimes not read. So it's not always the laser, so definitely worth replacing capacitors, especially at this age that they're at now. So yeah, looks like I've got a few capacitors to replace. I'm going to get everything over to my workbench now and start working on replacing all of these, and then we'll see how things work. And I'll do the battery too. Okay, here I am with the board, and I've got the replacement capacitors right here. I'm going to start working on changing these out for the disk drive. Oh, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope reign. Okay, got it all put back together, and now it's time to put the game in and see what happens. Okay, because I changed the battery, it's saying I need to set the time and date and stuff like that. So I'm going to pause it, quickly do that, and then retest. Okay, I set the time and date, shut it off, holding the power button down to drain any power from the capacitors and make it a fair test. Yep, game is loading straight up this time. No issues. No memory card. So I'm going to leave the console switched off for a while and then try it again, because it was usually, this would happen when I haven't been playing it for a while, and then I'll turn it back on. It always had that error where it couldn't read the disc, and then if I left it powered on for like a minute and then tried again, it would work. This was consistent with this one. So I think it was the capacitors because of that behavior. That's a telltale sign that the capacitors are going bad, is if you turn it on, something isn't working right, and then you wait, those capacitors just take longer to charge up, and then you turn it off, turn it back on, they're already kind of pre-charged, and then things work. So I'm going to turn it off, let them drain a bit, hold the power button down, give it 30 minutes, and then come back and try again, make sure that this problem is actually fixed. I also wanted to add that sometimes when playing like this would happen with Mario Kart, and I know my game's good, the disc is good, and it works on my I've got another GameCube that works fine. Doesn't need capacitors replaced yet. But with this one, like sometimes when I was playing Mario Kart during the game, it would suddenly say, hey, I can't read the disc, and then the game would pause. And all I'll do is open up the tray, close it again, let it read the disc, and then the game would continue. That was a problem, and I think it was the faulty capacitors doing it, not the actual laser. So a lot of people, they take it apart and they adjust the laser so that the laser has less like resistance, and it makes the laser stronger. And that's not always the best fix for this issue, because what you're doing is you're probably causing your laser to wear down sooner by doing that. And oftentimes it is just the capacitors in the actual like disk assembly part of the GameCube. So I would always just get those replaced anyway, because they're old enough, they need it, and it may fix that issue with the disk drive, and you're not making any changes to your laser. So always my first instinct would be to change those. And you can really tell by that behavior of, console gets turned on, warmed up a bit, and then suddenly starts working. So I'm leaving this off. I'm going to come back in about 20-30 minutes, just give it time to cool down, capacitors to drain, and then I've left the power button on too, just to make sure it kind of drains everything. And then I'm going to try, I'll try both. I can try both games. I think I'm going to try Mario Kart, and then that one was clearly problematic with this particular console. And if those problems have cleared up, then we know that this has actually fixed it. So, okay, I'm back. Now I'm going to just pop the camera here. I've got the GameCube down here, so I'm just going to plug it all back in. And then put Mario Kart in and see what happens. So far, so good. Usually, when I'm playing the levels, though, they would mess up. So it always happened during this level. So if I can get through this and it doesn't happen, I'm like 99.9% sure that this laser issue or disk reading issue has been fixed by replacing all those capacitors. And also, like, I haven't had any issues yet with putting the game in, turning on the console, and it complaining about reading the disk. So, like, the exact problem that you saw in the beginning of this video is what would happen with this all the time, amongst other things. Hey, I think that tells me everything I need to know. This is working fine. I'll try one more game just to make sure. I know this let's see. I think it was Star Fox Adventures. Or one of these games would also have issues. I think it was this one. Let's just try this one really quick. Also, did you all know that when you're putting a game in here and you're taking it out, you can just push in and it pops the disc up for you. Makes it a lot easier for putting it in and removing. Easy to miss. I think a lot of people still don't know that they can do that.